Welcome to our Lagos studio where we'll be taking you through very, very pressing issue. We're looking at the topic here, preventing tanker explosion in Nigeria. We're going to be addressing the causes, the consequences, and we're going to be looking at some of the solutions. Just to let you know that Nigeria has experienced a series of devastating tanker explosions resulting in loss of lives, destruction of property, and of course that has affected economy and caused economic setback, poor road conditions, reckless driving, inadequate enforcement of safety regulations, and infrastructure deficiencies. These are many more of the problem, and of course they have been on our major roads. Now, these have contributed to the tragedies in January 2025 alone. Two major tanker explosions occurred, one in Niger State around Diko, where fuel tanker overturned in Suleja, causing at least 98 fatalities, and another in Enugu recently where a tanker lost control and collided with 17 vehicles, killing 18 people. Now, from our Lagos studio here, we'll be looking at the issues, examining the root cause, and looking for solution and bridging the regulatory gaps and practical solutions to enhance safety in petroleum transportation. Just to let you know that my name is Daniel Prezo Sedebame, and joining us virtually here in Lagos, Nigeria is Mr. Jaja Emmanuel. He's a safety expert, industrial analyst who will be providing insight on how we can prevent future occurrences. A very good morning to you, Mr. Emmanuel, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. Mr. Emmanuel, help us now. What are the primary causes of frequent tanker explosion in Nigeria? Let's begin from there.
Well, our roads are not good in the first place. From the south to the east and approaching to the west here, the roads are very bad in a very deplorable condition. And for these singular reasons, these tankers sometimes they pass through some rough edges, and this is not too good for us
Mm.
because
Are you
can you
there,
hear
Mr.
me?
Emmanuel? Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead, please.
What I'm saying is, to start with, the roads are nothing to write home about.
Mm.
If you check all the way from the east down to the west here, for instance, let's say if you are coming from Port Harcourt to Owerri down to Benin, the road is something else. I don't know how many of you have applied that road in recent time. The road is nothing to write home about. And these big vehicles are carrying heavy equipment like PMS and going.
Mm.
So every little thing that happens, you see they will slip off from the road. And when they slip off from the road, the next thing is the tanker will fall. And
So, yeah.
the rest is story. You and I have seen what has been happening in the recent times.
Definitely, the impact is very, very ugly. But just like you have said, how do poor road infrastructure and traffic congestion contribute to these accidents that we have seen in recent time?
Yes, when we are growing in this country, there was a time that some of these petroleum products were being transported from one place to the other through rail.
Mm.
There are tankers in the rail. You see all the way from Port Harcourt, they go by rail to Madugri, to Sokoto, to Enugu, everywhere. And in those days, you never hear this kind of story at all, at all, at all. But as events begin to unfold, the people that owns Nigeria, you see some of them, they have tankers. Some of them have more than 1,000 tankers, and they put it on the road. In the first place, who are the people that are driving these tankers? Did they pass through the real driving test or what they had to drive the tanker?
Mm.
That is number one. Number two, these tankers they are using to export these petroleum products from one end to the other. Is it satisfied? These are things we need to put into consideration. If we don't try as much as possible to look into these things and see how we arrange it, this thing will continue to happen. An innocent soul will go.
Okay, now talking about having those that are not experienced, what role do tanker drivers and trucking companies play in ensuring safety? Just like you have said in your submission, I have seen cases where we have some young lads from one region of this country, we don't want to mention names now, where you have people who are supposed to be children still undergoing training, mounting these heavy duty vehicles. There was a time I was traveling from Parakot to Abuja around 2011 or so, where I saw a young boy, not up to 16 years, pulling one of these trucks. Now, what do you think the road safety authorities will do at this point? Because we have seen cases where they are complicit,
This is
they don't collect, they don't really sanction these people, and they just have them plight our road. What do you think should be the way out at this point?
well, the onion slice on the government. We have road safety. We have Tanker Drivers Association, mention them. We have Nupeng. You just mention them. They are all over the place. So who is in charge? Is government in charge? Does government control these agencies? Or they just got up? Like you rightly said, sometimes you see a young lad, less than 20 years, pulling these machines and they don't even care. Some of them, if you take note, you see some of them when they are driving this tanker, they don't even wear shirt, nothing. They just enter and start before you realize you see them from Maduguri to Lagos, from Sokoto to Port Harcourt, and all those things. So there must be an agencies. So these road safeties, government agencies that are supposed to take care of that, where are they? We don't just create agencies and leave them because it's like we're running Banana Republic. We must have people that should be accountable for. We must have.
So talking
And I'm
about
sure if
regulations,
government
yes.
is sincere,
Okay, talking
I'm
about
sure that if
sincerity.
government,
Yeah, go
if
ahead.
they
Land on
want,
your
if the
thought, please.
government is uh,
Land on your thought,
now, if
please.
the government is sincere in valuing the life of their citizens,
Mm.
these things should be taken care of. It doesn't take anything. Let me tell you, my brother, if government decide to do what is right today and do something reasonable, do something, they will do it. So the onus still lies back on government.
Okay, now, are there existing government regulations on petroleum transportation? And if there is, or if there are, how effective is their enforcement so far?
One thing is to enact a law, but another thing is obey the law. And we and I know that most times in Nigeria here, sometimes it's pretty difficult for people to obey the law. There are procedures. These things, there are procedures from east to west, north and south. If you go to the nitty gritty, make inquiry, there are laws that govern these things. The question is implementation. And when people don't implement the laws, that is where we find ourselves. There is no how you can tell me that government agencies do not know that before you move a tanker from one station to another, there must be certification of the tanker in the first place. There must be certification of the drivers. I tell you, I can beat my chest to tell you, some of these drivers that are driving these things, some of them cannot boast of current driving license. So we find ourselves in this quagmire.
It's terrible.
But, I suggest and I think that if government is sincere and if government is ready to put this thing in place, all they need to do is to put this law, go back to where this law, where it's written, and make sure it is being implemented. For instance, if anybody go contrary to the law, you face the wrath of law. And I'm sure that one or two people, when they face the wrath of law, the rest will buckle up.
Now, talking about facing the route of the law, what specific safety measures should be implemented to reduce the risks of tanker explosions? Now, the truth is, it might be a little bit difficult to avoid it, but we can control it in a way. So, what measures do you think should be put in place, Mr. Emmanuel?
That is what I'm saying, that we should go back to basics, starting from the loading points, starting from the tanker points. There are some agencies that are, this is their core duty, it is their responsibility. So they should even, in fact, from the depot where they are loaded, there are some agencies that their duty is to satisfy that these tankers are worthy. These tankers are worthy because I have Being in a situation, I am following a tanker behind, and the tanker is dripping fuel on the ground, dripping fuel as it's going. So imagine if by our mission any fire come across, all the fuel that dropped behind, all the cars, vehicles that are following behind, you can imagine what will happen. So these agencies should put these things in place. They are there. There are laws. It's like our Nigerian constitution. There are some in Nigerian constitution, but who got the cat? Our people just look at it, they don't obey it, and nobody faces the wrath of law. That's my concern.
Now, more pressing and more concerning now, as it were, Nigerians who are at the receiving end. Most times, when you see these tankers when they fall down or so on the road, people go there to scoop fuel. It's a major issue, and just little spark can get everyone on fire. Is it that Nigerians are not afraid for their lives? Could it be that the level of hunger in the land is beclouding their sense of judgment? What is the major reason why we are having people ending their lives at the altar of this tanker overturn, and which leads to explosion?
Well, just to answer you straight, you know that there is poverty in the land, and everybody is trying. What we are doing is survival of the fittest. This is not the first time that the tanker fell and people went there to scoop fuel, they died. This is not the first time, it's not the second time, it's not the third time. It has been happening over and over again. Now the question is, why is people still doing this? I will tell you the hunger, it's poverty. For people, when this opportunity, either positive or negative, happen, tanker fell with PMS or whatever, you see people going to, if they scoop the fuel, what do they use it for? Do they drink it? The answer is no. What is their intention? To go and sell it and make money. Bearing in mind that
Mr. Ima, are you still there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Please go ahead.
So what I'm saying is poverty in the land. The poverty has pushed people to a level that everybody is finding is survival of the fittest. Everybody is finding way to survive. The people that go to scoop this fuel, what is their intention? Is to go and sell it and make ends meet. That's all, nothing more. They are not drinking. Since
Okay,
they know
Miss.
that a liter of fuel now is about 1,000 something,
Yes.
maybe anyone that were able to scoop 25 liters, to God be the glory. If nothing happened to you, you know how much that person will get at that point in time. So it's the situation we find ourselves. Like I said before, this is not the first time that tanker has failed and people went there to skip fuel, fire engulfed the tanker, and a lot of people died. It has happened over and over again. And I'm
Okay.
telling you, if it still happen again tomorrow, which I don't play for, you will still see that people will still go there to scoop the fuel. So it's where we find ourselves. It's survival of the fittest. There is hunger in the land. And
Okay.
it has pushed people to so many things.
All right, let's start profiling solution now. Can technology play a role in monitoring and preventing such incidents? If so, how can we use technology? Because we've seen cases where people lost their lives, tanker overturned and all that, and all we get from the presidency is a marching order for a quick look into what happened. Let's inquire and get the root cause and all that. But we don't get solutions. We only get matching order from our authorities, and nothing is being brought to the table to tell us what they have gotten over the years. Like you said, this is not the first time we've been seeing tanker explosion or tanker falling down on the road and people losing their lives, as it were. Do you think we can now start deploying the use of technology to help us?
When you mean the use of technology, are you talking about AI? Is it robust or whatever that we taking fuel from one place to
like
the
like
other?
have drone like have drone
Technology.
fly drone around where you have
I
these tankers taking fuel from one point to
I know
another.
what you are talking about, but I know what you are talking about. But you know here, and when you want to talk about technology, you must also be prepared because you don't go to war without preparing the follow-up because anything can happen. In a country like Nigeria, where we don't have a constant power supply, where
Mm.
you don't have anything, if you are talking about technology, I wonder where it will lead, because anything can happen. And in the process of doing right, something will happen. So when we want to talk about technology, it will be a good idea if things are working well and we can do that. But if you allow me to suggest or to say, I would advise the government to go back to the basis. Years ago, like I said, when we were little children, you will see that they will load tankers of fuel, diesel, and all of them, all the way from Port Harcourt refinery. When the refinery was working at Eliseleme, there's rail inside that refinery. They will load tankers, more than 200, and they will pass through the rail down, stopping wherever they need to stop. They'll pass through the rail down to Maduguri, down to Sokoto, and all those things. So the government is interested in bringing back the rail. I think it will reduce this constant explosion on the road, because going through the road, a lot of things happen. Going through the road, I can tell you a lot of things. So if they can do that, fair enough.
Mm.
But if I can assure you, if we say for us to advise a means of technology now, I do not think that we are right for it as at this moment. I don't know what tomorrow brings, but as at this moment, I do not think that we can continue.
Okay, Mr. Jaja, we are due for a break now. We'll be returning back to extend the front line of the conversation. Do stay with us. Thank you so much for staying with us. If you're just joining it this morning on ITV, reaching you live from our Lagos Network Center, Daniel Prezo Sedebame is my name. We still have with us Jaja Emmanuel, who is joining us virtually to help us make sense of the conversation, tanker explosion in Nigeria, avoiding a repeat and charting a way forward. Mr. Emmanuel, we thank you very much for staying with us.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on, Mr. Ima. How can regulatory bodies like the Federal Road Safety Corps and NNPC enforce strict compliance with safety standards? We've seen cases where you see trailer explode, you see fuel being spilled all over the road. The road safety officials, they are helpless in a way. They don't even have what it takes to pull the tanker away from the road to start with. The highest they can do is to try to maybe block one side of the road and tell people to use the other route of the road. That is the highest we have seen. We have not seen a quick intervention. And for the NNPCL on their own part, I'm very sure probably they don't get these messages in time, but some of these trailers takes hours before it even explodes. What should they do? The Federal Road Safety Corps and the NNPCL, what role should they play?
Well, this is not the issue of only federal road safety. There are other organs of the government. It's a matter of teamwork. Federal road safety, in the first place, their own is to stay on the road to make sure that the vehicle is ready to apply and all those things. But if you come to the petroleum industry, there are different sections and different departments
Hmm.
that there are safety people that their job there is to make sure that these things are worthy in the first place to be loaded, worthy to depart, worthy to move. So I will advise from all the agencies, starting from the loading point, the oil sector. Oil sector is a very big industry that they have all sections. They have all sections. How many times have you heard that refinery got burnt? But rather, when they bring the products from refinery or somewhere along the road or whatever, you begin to hear these stories. You have a very good safety standard. And I tell you, sometimes, our people here, we compromise with some of the things that we're supposed to take serious. So what I will advise, starting from the loading point, the agencies, starting from the refinery,
Hmm.
the safety people there should make sure that everything is ready to leave their section. And the very moment you leave there, the road safety too, they should make sure. You see, when you see sometimes it's traffic, 1 hour, 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer traffic on the road, and tanker, two, three, four tankers carrying TMS product on that road. Some people are passing there smoking cigarette. Some people are passing there with one thing or the other. Anything can trigger fire because these are flammable things.
Mm.
So I will advise that each group, each safety, each group should be very, very conscious because over the years, especially since last year to this year, a lot of people have died because of this recklessness. We can avoid it. We can avoid it. And the only way we can avoid it is for people to be serious with their jobs. Whatever you find yourself doing, do it well and make sure you cover your own acts and nothing happens from that end. So I think the agencies that are involved, they should buckle up. There must be a way to stop this thing. It's getting out of hand.
Okay, in one piece, let's see how to manage our time as we are planning to close down. What lessons should Nigerians learn from previous occurrences? It has been happening, like you said, it has happened in different parts of the country, from Kaduna to Niger State to Enugu and other parts. And like you actually rightly said, that we've not seen cases where some of these the petroleum, where they produce it from, you hardly hear issues of having fire coping where they are producing the fuel from. But when it gets to the road, you see tanker exploding. What should Nigerians learn, and how can we have a lasting solution?
For now, when you talk about lasting solution, I think it's going to be a little pretty difficult. But what I want to advise Nigerians is these things are flammable items. If you see where any tanker fall, either by or mission, run for your dear life. It's not immediately that the tanker fall that it got fired. Sometimes it will fall here and you will see the fuel will be moving. It will move like 10, 20, 30, even almost 100 meters. And as it's going like that, these things move with a very fast speed. As it's going like that, you don't know what it's going to meet. So when you see any tanker fall, I will advise run for your dear life. There is no duplicate in this life. Just run because anything can trigger. And the way fuel operates, if it happens here and fire go up here, it will just with speed within a twinkle of an eye. It has covered some meters. So people should please, as much as possible, try to avoid it whenever it falls. And I also advise the government, if there's anything they can do to find a solution to this thing, let them do it because we can't continue like this, starting from the road, starting from taking care of all these things and making sure that appropriate people are being signed to do the right thing.
Okay. Now, finally, some stakeholders are saying there should be designated routes or time restrictions for tanker movement, especially in urban areas. They're saying tankers operators should have specific time they move out. Do you agree with that? And this will be your final take.
I think that will be fine. And I think there was a time in Nigeria here, some of these big tankers and trailers, they don't allow them to run in the afternoon. They allow them to run some certain period in the night. I don't know all of a sudden. That's what I'm talking about implementation. If you go book-wise now, there may be something like that they are not supposed to run from so and so time to so and so time. They are supposed to run when the road is free, when people are out of the, but nobody obeys it. So I think there are rules, and I pray if they can be able to go back to the rules and obey these things, we may minimize it a little bit.
Thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel. We appreciate you for your time, and we hope to have you again join us on this platform.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. That was Mr. Emmanuel Jaja, who actually joins us from Lagos, Nigeria, helping us to make sense on the conversation. Just before we let you go, let's give you our parting shots from our Lagos Network Center. Treat people with kindness and respect, not because of who they are, but because of who you are. This is our parting shot. My name is Daniel Praise Osedeba.